You guys are all the brave ones that stayed until the last moment, so I already want to applaud. I'll give you guys an applause in this case, because congrats to that. I'm really grateful for that, first of all. And apparently, yeah, I'm from Belgium. I do speak a little bit of French, but I submitted my talk in English, and I hope that's okay for everybody. So that will be okay. 1 minute, okay. And we will be starting in about 1 minute. Can I perhaps quickly already ask a question? Does anybody already know JobRunr by any chance? No? No, I really need to fire my marketing manager. That would be me. Ah, très bien pour dire. Oui, ça va. And I have the tendency to walk around, so probably I sometimes also will be out of the screen. I'll also try to make this. Well, let's go for it. Yeah. All right. So thanks again for being here all. This is a short talk about JobRunr. And let's get right into it, that we can all go home as quick as possible. So it's an open source project that allows you to do distributed background job processing. And I'm a little bit biased, of course, but I call it the ultimate library for background processing in Java. It's distributed, backed by persistent storage, and of course, open and free for commercial use. Here are the links to Twitter and GitHub. And I was really lucky enough to also be featured in the ThoughtWorks technology radar. So they are using it and apparently quite happy with it. They especially like the dashboard, but this is all marketing, blah, blah. So let's quickly go to the agenda. Quick introduction of who I am. Then I already asked the question, who guys you are. I'll explain why I started developing JobRunr. Then, of course, talk is cheap, show me the code. I'll do some live coding. And then we will see how much time we have left to go over to Q&A and the internals and stuff like that. All right, who am I? I am a developer. I was born in the right country because we have a large amount of great beers. And I really like them. And then, are there a lot of first-time attendees here? A couple, okay. And then the two other questions, I don't even need to ask the third question. So let's get to it. Why did I start developing JobRunr? Well, 4 years ago, right before the pandemic, I was doing a lot of freelancing, and I got a new assignment in the e-invoicing world, or the fintech, and they lured me in by saying, hey, this is a greenfield project. And already marked the quotes around the greenfield project. And the goal was to create an e-invoicing platform, middleware, in fact, to the PayPal network. I don't know if you know, but as of 2025, all the invoices between B2B customers will be sent via XML. It's European law that it will need to happen. And so that's what we started building. So what is PayPal? For what does it stand? Well, it means Pan-European Public Procurement Online. And now we know why all these people in the European government make so much money. They can come up with really difficult acronyms for something really simple like e-invoicing. And it's the e-invoicing standard for Europe. What does it mean? Well, being banking, of course, it's XML. and we will be embedding the PDF document inside the XML base64 encoded. Well, it is what it is. And when I arrived, the people the team that was developing the application or the middleware developed a microservice architecture. So it was a lot of RESTful microservices on the Google Cloud platform. They had an asynchronous API externally, so customers could load up the documents, and then an event was fired on PubSub for further processing of this invoice document. Internally, RESTful microservice architecture, everything was done using RESTful APIs, so synchronously. Also, all the external APIs that we called, and the goal was to process millions of documents per day. But you know how it goes. We all want to become the next Facebook. That doesn't always happen. They now process a couple of 100,000 documents per. Yeah, it increased a little bit per 2 weeks, I think. But microservices. When there was a failure, processing was not retried. We didn't have any monitoring at all. And the logging happened without correlation ID. So invoices got lost and messages just ended up on the dead letter queue of PubSub. And I don't know about you, but if I send out an invoice, I hope it gets paid and not gets lost somewhere. So yeah, this was a bit of a problem. So this was the greenfield project that I imagined where I could go and develop. This is how I felt after 2 weeks. I considered a career change, but yeah, no, that's not who I am. So yeah, so we started looking out for other solutions, and they're either vendor specific, so all cloud-based solutions. They often require extra infrastructure, like Apache Kafka, Apache Hadoop, Apache Spark. One does not always simply install Hadoop FS, especially back then. And back then, there was no open source one-stop shop that is easy to use, so really developer friendly, that's distributed by default, that uses your existing infrastructure, that has monitoring built in, and also resilience. And I really believe, that we're not all working for Facebook, LinkedIn, or Netflix, and that we need to process petabytes of data per day. I should add OpenAI also now. I do believe that we often need to solve complex business processes with a moderate amount of data. Think gigabytes, terabytes. I also believe that we don't need extra infrastructure just to run some jobs or to do some distributed processing. Let's do things simple, KISS, and reuse proven technologies like SQL and NoSQL databases. Creating and running these jobs should be fast and easy. Failing jobs should be retried automatically and only bug me or warn me if they don't succeed after a while. It should be resilient by default. I also believe that we should have instant insights in how these jobs are doing. And this tool needs to be self-maintaining and be plug and play in whatever framework you're using. And these are the beliefs that I keep to myself each time I touch JobRunr or when I started developing it. So the whole story about the banking part was right before COVID. Then in January 2020, I had enough of the shit digging, or how should I call it? And I decided, okay, I'm going to quit and I'm going to try to solve this and develop it. Then the whole lockdown happened, and then I was in complete panic mode because, hey, will I ever find a job again? It was really a scary time, but luckily my wife said continue with it, and so I started developing and tried to make it as simple as possible. And what does that mean? Well, you can create a background job of each Java 8 lambda, also Java 21 lambda. What happens, and I will show you that later on, the lambda gets analyzed, serialized to the database, and that way we can process it, distribute it in a cluster-friendly way. Think Kubernetes. We use your existing infrastructure, so SQL or NoSQL database. It's embeddable. You just add one dependency to your POM, and you're done. You can start using it. It will automatically retry if, for whatever reason, your job fails. And it comes with a free dashboard. On top of that, it integrates with the best out of the box, which is, of course, Spring Boot, Micronaut, and Quarkus. So, quick teaser already. How do you create a job? Well, let's try to do it in English. Background job.enqueue, and then you give it a lambda, and it will do the job for you. Maybe in this JVM, depending on your configuration, maybe in another JVM. And this is the dashboard I was talking about, which I will also show you later on. So, who's up for some live coding? Great. I always try to do this a mob programming experience, because then if the demo fails for some reason, I am not the only one to blame. But let's try. All right. The first thing I will do, and I will change my font in a minute, or perhaps let's try it already. Team. Is this readable at the back? Yes, let's do really big. Okay, so to do the live demo, I'm going not to do the integration with any of the frameworks. I will try to keep it as simple as possible. I just create a new project. Java, Maven, Hub. Let's go for it. New window. And the first thing that I need to do is, of course, add the dependencies. And I think I cheated a little bit. So we're going to add 2 dependencies in this case. We just released JobRunr 7 last week. And because we store everything using JSON, you need to have either JSON, JSON, or anything else on your class pod also. Typically, this comes out of the box with Spring Boot or Quarkus. So with that out of the way, let's refresh the dependencies. We can start using JobRunr. So the first thing that I need to do is configure JobRunr. And we do that. And we need to specify a database as the first thing to initialize it. In this case, I will use the in-memory storage provider, but you can also provide Mongo. We deprecated Redis, but Mongo and any SQL database that you want to use. Then I, of course, want to have a background job server to process the actual jobs. I also like to have the dashboard available to see how my jobs are doing. We initialize it, and then I get the job scheduler. So, but typically, we're all working in a big project where there are services that we need to use and that we need to call. So let's create some of these services. And here, make it a little bit about Devoxx. That should do as a starter. So, how do we now make this method a background job? Well, really easy. Let's start with the job scheduler, and then we want to enqueue a new job. But of course, I need access to my service in this case. And there are different ways to do it. One is like this. The other way could be using generics. And then in that case, I get X and I can do X. So there are two ways to do it. It's a matter of preference, what you prefer. Let's see of whether this already works. Voila. Here we can see the job already ran, but of course we want to see the dashboard. And we see, hey, succeeded, we have a job. Hello from Devoxx. And the job goes in fact through different states. So first it was enqueued, then it was processing. We say on which server it was processed. And then we give some extra information like the latency and the actual process duration. But we often need to do other things also, like schedule a job in the future. And then we just call, hey, job scheduler.schedule, and I can pass any instant a local datetime or offset datetime to schedule that job in the future. So let's do, for example, plus seconds 45 or something. And in this case, I will do my service. So let's run that again. If I now go to the dashboard, I see, hey, there is a job scheduled. And normally, it's always exciting during demos, we have live updates in the dashboard. So it means that the dashboard gives you live updates. If we wait 20 more seconds, which is quite long, then this should automatically update. But often you would like to hear this job details is not really readable. So let's give that a better name. And that's why we have the job annotation. And if we would run that now, then we see that the name is of course a lot easier to read. And with JobRunr, I really said I want you to embrace exceptions. So let's throw an exception in this case. And it can be a checked exception or a runtime exception, of course. And if we run that, and we refresh the dashboard, then you will see that this job has failed. And we can see the exact reasons why it's failed. By default, JobRunr will use exponential backoff policy to retry your job. So what we see, it's scheduled it again, the retry 1 out of 10, and it's in queued, and normally we will see it update again. Here it is. It tried processing it. Of course, it failed again, but because I constantly keep throwing the same exception, and it will continue retrying until the retries are exhausted, and then it's of course done. Then it will go to the failed section here. If you want to configure the amount of retries, well, we just specify the number of retries here. We say we only want 4 retries, and in that case, the job will go to the failed state after 4 retries. Let's refresh again. So now, of course, retry 1 of 4. But we can do more. Typically, at least in the financial world where I used to work, there is also certain jobs that need to happen at the end of each week or at the end of each month. So for that, we also have something, and this is schedule recurrently. Who likes writing cron expressions? 1, okay, you're really good then, because I find it really difficult. So to make life a little bit easier, well, we can say cron, and then we can say, for example, every 5 minutes, every 10 minutes, or every day at, let's take 18,15, and again, we can give an lambda expression. If you're using Spring Boot, Quarkus, or Micronaut, then you can just put a @recurring annotation on your code, and we will pick it up, and automatically you will have a recurring job that is managed for you. So if we now go to our dashboard, we will see that we now also have a recurring job, and this recurring job will run for 4 minutes from now. In case that you really want to trigger it already, you just click trigger, and it should start. Voila, there is a counter, but I think they're all in scheduled, yeah, because of the failures. So that's it. We now process, because there are some anonymous usage statistics in it that you can disable, by the way, and we now process about 500 million jobs per day. So it's some of my customers are, I call them the stress testers, and I think they are doing like 80% of all tests. Any questions about it, this part? Yes, that's configurable. Yeah, everything you see is almost configurable. So the question was for the camera, the video later on. Can you specify the delay between the different retries? That's configurable.
Is it possible to see argument called during the method?
Yes. So here you will see which argument was passed. I think we can do better. We still need to make this a little bit nicer because it is a string, so it should have quotes around it. Perhaps let me zoom. How do I zoom on a Mac? I'm not that good with all, but yeah, you can see the arguments indeed that are passed. Sorry. Yes.
Quick question. Is it possible, for example, to have a runner, let's say, running on a separate server and target it? And like use it to...
Yeah. So that's the whole idea. Now I'm using JobRunner on one machine with the in-memory storage provider, but the whole goal is, like, Amazon is using it for some part now. And the goal is that, like, your front end, for example, only creates jobs, and your backend, which you enable with a Boolean true or false, whether it should process the actual jobs, there on your background job service, you enable it to true, and yeah, there the actual jobs get on. All right. Then let's quickly go to the slides again. Not long. I'll try to get you home earlier than what was said. The internals part is really also interesting because within JobRunner we have a small GVM, but I don't have enough time to elaborate on that. What we do is we parse your bytecode to find out what is the actual lambda that you're calling. Because in the current Java version, this is not really possible, so we use ASM, but this is about to change with an upcoming JAP where we will be able to interact with all the classes directly from the Java APIs and also try to find out which are the different arguments that were passed, for example, to the lambda. On top of that, we also support a command handler pattern. So I just used the lambda now, but you can also do a job request, which is just a simple, can be a record. And then it has one obligatory method that you need to implement, which is the class that will handle that job request. And you just provide the class. Then we ask your EOC container like Spring, hey, give me that instance of that class, and that will then process the job. Everything is also documented on the website, by the way, on that part. So, JobRunner today and back to the future. I want to see this slide, please. Yeah. So, JobRunner today is used for medical image processing to distribute the load over multiple servers, web crawling, order fulfillment, document generation, e-procurement, server desk automation. This started out as a hobby project. It grew out out of control. Now we do about 500 million jobs a day. This slide is a little bit older. And then I have 3 kids to feed. So I created a JobRunner Pro, which has an extended dashboard, which integrates better with Spring, where you have queues, batches, job chaining, server text, a lot of more features. And on top of that, with the money we make, so 5% of our revenue goes to team trees, and we now planted about 15,000 trees because I think it's important to do good for the nature. And then what is planned for the future? We already integrate with GraalVM. We want to continue working on that. Since JobRunner v7, the faster part I can scrap because we implemented that. We also use virtual threads now. So that means that if you're doing I/O inside your job, your thread will be released so that another job can be picking up work. Feature requests from you, and then another feature that I'm really proud on that we're currently working on is carbon-aware jobs. And what that means is that, let's say that you need to have a job that needs to run before 7 a.m. in the morning, then using information from the electricity companies in Europe, we will try to determine the best moment in time to run your job so that it uses the least amount of carbon. So that's also something, as we are doing so much job, I think we can try to make an impact there. That's that. Are there any other questions? Yeah, there's one more question. I don't know where the mic is. Yeah.
Thank you for the presentation. I just wanted to know, in your main, you had used background server, something like that?
Yes.
Yeah. So what does that do? What kind of server do you have?
It's a jar. So there is no server. The only thing that it means, it's the technical term to enable job processing, and that's how we called it. It's not. It's using the same hardware that you have.
So, okay, so if I have a project, it will use the same resources as my normal deployment?
Yeah.
Okay. That's it. Thank you.
So, to conclude, typically what I recommend is you have X amount of, in a Kubernetes cluster, you have some servers that you tag with, for example, frontend. They do not do any job processing. But then you have your, we call them background job servers. It's just calling this method or in your application.properties enabling one Boolean. And that's the trigger for JobRunner to know, okay, hey, I need to process jobs. That's it.
In my company, on my product, we use Quartz.
Yes.
And if I had to convince my my boss to switch from Quartz to JobRunner, what should I say? And are there any features we can find in Quartz we can't find in JobRunner?
I think that all the features from Quartz, we have them. We even have the dashboard. And for me, the biggest reason to move to JobRunner in this case is that, and I got confirmation today, Quartz is not really well maintained anymore. The whole JavaX to Jakarta, they didn't release a new version yet, so we are together working with the Spring team also on all of that. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And that's it, I'm over time. If I can ask you one thing, please rate my session positive or negative. That way I can try to improve. Thank you very much.